Season 9 of Night School is presented by the AQHA. Watch the Bank of America Championship Challenge Sunday, April 28th at Turf Paradise. Keeneland, live racing runs through April 26th. Woodbine, catch live thoroughbred racing at Woodbine and standardbred racing at Woodbine Mohawk Park. Remington Park, don't miss a special live race card on Monday, April 29th, and ExpressBet, home of the $25,000 Preakness Big Bet Sweepstakes.
Horses have off days, and by looking at them before they actually get on the racetrack, you get an initial impression of which way they're leaning.
This is going to sound crazy, but for me, it's intellectual stimulation.
Class is now in session. It's time for Night School. Here are your hosts.
Welcome, everyone, to Night School, the National Online Fan Education Program's 2019, our 9th season. I'm Jeremy Plonk from Horseplayer Now, joined by my partner in crime, Brian W. Spencer, the General Manager of HP Now. And, Brian, we are talking Bankroll tonight, and Bankroll is so important. Hopefully you got the wallet out.
Yeah, and this is a topic that, I think maybe we don't talk about as much as we should. I know we've covered this topic, large bankroll betting, small bankroll betting, in a lot of different ways on Night School in seasons past. But, the whole idea of money management and, the majority of people, the vast majority of people are working with a finite number of dollars of some sort when they're coming to the races, and knowing kind of what your bankroll means for you at the start of the day. And being realistic about that bankroll and what you can turn it into, I think, is a conversation that's very important for us to keep having.
An overview of what we'll talk about in this bankroll session. We're going to talk about the difference between playing daily and being more of a weekend warrior or recreational once-a-week type player. We're going to talk about which days to bet more, which days to bet less. How to adjust, and even percentage-wise, how to spread your bankroll over the course of a day, when you want to fire, what types of horses perhaps that you want to fire, or situations that you want to fire heavier at. And we'll give you some sense of having a goal in your long-term and short-term in playing the races. But it is a vastly different game, if you will, Brian, if you're playing daily or if you're playing in that once-a-week, twice-a-week kind of category. Let's start with the daily players. These are the folks who are in the grind, the professional horse players, if you will, or certainly the hobbyists who have a lot of time and bankroll on their hands. If you're playing the races on a daily basis, there is a lot of pro and con to it, no question about it. The pros being that you are tuned in. You are seeing everything that's happening in real time. You're following the races on a regular schedule. Nothing gets by you at that point. You've seen what's happening. Days don't pass without you getting an opportunity to jump in on a situation. You've got a lot more opportunities to shop as well when you're playing every day, and you're looking every day at playing. You're not set to a finite 9, 10 race card. You've got your races in front of you throughout the course of the week that may number 30, 40, 50 on any particular circuit. Those folks who are playing on a daily basis, their bankroll management quite different, and they're looking at things in a much longer term picture, maybe for an entire meet or the calendar year. They're breaking down their success and failure over a very long run, which means you take the ebbs and the flows as they go.
Yeah, whereas if you're not somebody who's playing every day, you don't necessarily get that chance. And that could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing depending on what kind of day you have at the track. But that is a key distinction, I think, because, when we talk about what types of bets people want to make, and when we talk about how people use their bankroll and plan their bankroll for a day, it is different, because I feel like you get a little bit more liquidity in the bankroll on sort of once a week player, in the sense of, okay, I'm just going to play X dollars. I'm going to play through all of them because I've got them. They're the money. They're the dollars I'm willing to lose today. Whereas an everyday player who's looking for that end of the year return on investment, take a pass. It doesn't matter. They don't have to go out to the track for a, family party on a Saturday. So they can sit, they can pass, they can really laser focus that bankroll in a little bit less casual sense than maybe somebody who is just coming to the track once a week.
Yeah, if you're playing on a steady basis, 3, 4, 5 times a week, there's not a daily bankroll that you're setting for yourself. You don't look at the Wednesday card and say, I'm in for, 300 today, 300 Thursday, 300 Friday. You're looking for opportunities, the best opportunities. A good bet can come any day of the week and should be pounced on as such. I mean, if you're looking at, that horse who should be 3-1 and it's 7-1, and it's a Wednesday, you may bet more on Wednesday than you do at any other day of the week because that overlay is there and you're looking for opportunities. And that's so much why you see with these computer-aided programs and these big batch teams that are playing more on a daily basis that overlay doesn't exist as often because they're looking for those and then they're pounding them back down to what they should in market correction. So when those horses are 7-1 a couple minutes to post time and they end up 3-1 where they ought to, some of that market is fixing itself. So those batch bettors who are playing, they're looking for those opportunities, and those steady everyday players are looking for those opportunities. Their bankroll isn't set up as I've got X number of dollars for today. They're looking for opportunities. They're saying, what is a big bet for me on a particular race? Is my A bet $500? Is my A bet $50? And how many of these A-type plays do I have today? That's where they would develop necessarily a bankroll on a particular day, and it's going to add up to whatever it adds up to on the number of good plays that they find available throughout the course of their wagering week, month, and year as they evaluate their performance. But for the weekend player, the once or twice a week player, look, you're starting with a set number of dollars. It's what you have to play either in your account if you're betting online or you're going to the racetrack. And for the set account player, the bankroll strategies that we can give you over the next portion of this show maybe can help you become a more effective horse player in that you're putting your money where your opinions are strongest. That's the number one point of emphasis in bankroll management. Every race is not created equal. I know you're just there on Saturday. I know it's a 10-race card. You have $100, but 10 $10 bets is absolutely the worst positive thing you can do in terms of bankroll management while you're at the track during the course of the day. All bets and all situations are not created equal and shouldn't be bet that way. But Brian, that's probably the pitfall most horse players fall into. One of the first questions you hear people talking to others about, well, are you a $5 bettor, a $10 bettor, a $20 bettor? These amounts should be a lot more fluid.
Sure. And, I think I probably use terms like that to just kind of, set a baseline to put myself in kind of the right ballpark. But sure, not all horses and not all opportunities are created equal. There are times where I will bet 50 times as much on a horse as I would on another horse. Those are few and far in between, but they will happen. So the big thing for me, I think, is knowing ahead of time. There's absolutely no substitute for having an idea of what's going to happen at the races before you get there. So that's a big thing, is doing the homework, knowing what your expectations are. Am I coming in with my $100 and am I trying to hit the late pick 4 with 4 12-horse turf fields? Okay. Set myself up for that. That's a potentially nice payoff, but that's also a lot of tough handicapping that I'm going to have to do to be able to get through there. So knowing what I want to put in, what I want to get out. And the other thing I will say is I think that certainly from a discipline perspective, we want to be as disciplined as we can be, but I don't have a problem with people having some action bets throughout the day. Build off a small portion of your bankroll, a very small portion for the fun bets throughout the day. Oh, I want to just bet this horse, $5 to win, $2 to win, a $2 exacta box, something like that. But the vast majority of your bankroll, 85, 90%, that's got to be going to your strongest opinions or around your strongest opinions in a multi-race play. And you've got to know that before you get to the track and start betting.
I agree. That's why you handicap ahead and then you gamble when you're at the racetrack. The handicapping portion gets you set up to where you think the good plays might be. The gambling portion, once you're there, allows you to look at the tote board, assess the odds, the value, what's going on, make any last-minute decisions that you have to make in the handicapping process. But you don't want to be starting the handicapping process when you get to the track. I thought that 10-15% for action bets number that you threw out there corresponds a lot to my personal views, too. I think 10% for action bets. So if you've got got a $100 bankroll for the day, you've got $10 for action bets, which means 5 of the races you're betting $2 on probably. The other 5 races are where you're trying to find your plays. I think passing races altogether is a good thing, but if you can't sit still, then again, $2 bets here and there, 10% of your bankroll maximum, I think, for action bets during the course of the day. 90% of it's got to go to your main plays, and I can see as high as 50 or 60% of your bankroll going on the one best play you have today. So on a $100 day, you're betting 50 on your best bet, you're betting $20 on your second best bet, maybe $20 on your third best bet. That's 90, and then of the other races on the card, you're making 5 $2 bets, a 50, 20, 20, and then a couple twos to spread out throughout the rest of the card is, to me, a good bankroll strategy. I think you really want to hammer and emphasize the horse you think is the best value on the card, the best bet you have on the card. That may not be a single horse that you're just betting $50 to win on. That the pick 4, the late pick 4, might be what you think is the best bet on the card today. So you might be playing a $50 ticket in combinations on that pick 4, but you're investing the percentage of your bankroll on the bet that you think gives you the best chance today to find the best value and where your opinion matches that value. You have to have a solid opinion on a horse or two or a sequence throughout the card, and then put your money on it accordingly. Brian, some thoughts for you on days when to bet bigger or days when to bet less. I think on days that you want to bet more and maybe increase your bankroll, bigger fields, largest field sizes you have, and days when you have horses you love. You've handicapped ahead and you love horses on the card. Instead of being a $100 bettor this Saturday, maybe you're a $150 or $200 bettor because you love them and you've done the work ahead of time. But field sizes are important, and obviously good weather important. When you have bad weather, it's probably time to peel back.
Yeah, the big field's obviously one of the first ingredients to finding a good score, but also the sort of big versus small days. I've been a notoriously consistent small day bettor. I don't do well on big days, but the big day that I think is really worth, and this is not a big surprise, increasing the bankroll is Breeders' Cup Day. I mean, that is a day where horses who are 7-2 pay $6 to show. Wild stuff happens. There's no reason to be playing it conservatively on Breeders' Cup weekend, but other than that, I think you really hit the nail on the head that your bankroll can change from day to day. It doesn't have to be because the industry says it's a big day and it's Derby Day or Breeders' Cup Day. It can be a big day because you've got a 5-star play in the 4th at Fairgrounds on a Thursday. That can be your big bankroll day, and I think that the horses on the track, by and large, if you're playing with any regularity, that should really be dictating what portion of a bankroll you put on any bet on any given day.
And as we crack open the Night School vault and go back into some classic episodes of Night School, Jim Miller of Hawthorne, the handicapper there in Greater Chicago, had some great thoughts on the bankroll subject. And after you hear from Jim, you'll hear from Caton Bredar, the First Lady of Night School.
Racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
Strategize, analyze, select. Join Keeneland Select to bet on racing from around the world on your computer, tablet, or smartphone, anytime, anywhere. Featuring the best rewards in racing, free past performances, live video, race replays, and more. Plus, Keeneland Select invests a portion of its profits back into the sport. Join Keeneland Select today and earn a $150 sign-up bonus at KeenelandSelect.com. Dedicated to the sport and dedicated to the players.
Some folks like to bet on the horses. Some like to bet on the games. Some folks like to bet on their phone. And some like to bet from their suite. So what's your best bet? All of the above. No matter how you like to bet, Remington Park is your best bet yet. With world-class horse racing, OKC's newest casino, and online suite booking now available. Remington Park, it's your best bet yet.
Hey, what's going on? Mikey here, and I'm going to tell you about an offer from my good friends at ExpressBet. Let's be honest, we know you love playing the races, but you can't always make it to the track. Sometimes life just gets in the way of a good bet. Well, what if I told you about a place where you never miss a bet and you start with house money? You'd say I'm crazy, right? Well, not at ExpressBet. Your first $100 are on them. That's right. Sign up with expressbet.com using promo code XBRadio, bet $100, and they'll deposit $100 back into your account the very next day. Hey, plus you could get an extra $25 if you use Express Fund Direct Deposit. You see what I mean? House money for betting the races. It's that easy. Check it out at expressbet.com to learn more. And don't forget to sign up with promo code XBRadio. You're gonna love it. And that's a Mikey guarantee. Must be 18 years or older and 21 years old in certain states to open an account with ExpressBet and reside in a state where such activity is legal. Void where prohibited. National Gambling Support Line 800-522-4700.
Welcome back to the show. Enjoy this classic night school clip from the vault.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this quite a bit throughout the course of the day when I saw that this was your topic. And I think really one of the most important things is having realistic expectations for what you're going to do with your small bankroll. You can't come into a day with $20 saying, I'm going to leave with $2,000. If you can come into the day saying, okay, I'm going to play smart, I'm going to play races where there are horses that I like, and I know Jeremy was talking earlier about really kind of maybe shrinking your bets down to races where you really have a focus on, that may be the route to go. And if you can have the mentality that I just want to turn a profit, and then you start to work from there and build up from there, and I think that's something where the thought process really initially comes in and is the most important thing of the process. Because you look at a lot of the tracks, and Hawthorne being one of them, we've lowered minimums to 20 cents on all our multi-race wagers. So you can have action throughout the course of the day, be it in pick threes, pick fours, or place pick nine, something along those lines. You just have to be smart about how you play your races and how you're going to use that small bankroll. But I really think in the end, you just have to have the proper expectations going into things for what you're looking to come out of the day with.
Back now to close out tonight's Bankroll episode with a visit from Caton Bredar. And Caton, everybody's approach to bankroll money management slightly different, but I think there are some sort of hard and fast ideas about being smart in the way that you approach a day at the races and the way that you approach it with that bankroll. What are some of the keys that you really hold firm on when you're looking at your day at the races and where you may or may not allocate your bankroll to give yourself the best chance of turning a profit that day?
Well, one thing, I think a rule that holds firm, I think, with everyone who's serious about this is that you cannot play every single race. I mean, if you play every single race every day that you're at the racetrack, you are going to go broke.
Yep.
So you absolutely have to approach any day at the races with the idea that you are not going to play a race if you don't find something attractive to bet on, or if you don't play for the sake of playing. But with that in mind, I do think there is a difference between sometimes I will see I won't even have time, but I do know of one horse or one particular situation that's popped up on my horses to watch list or whatever, where I've been waiting and waiting for the opportunity to bet on the horse. I'm going to play that race, and I'm going to focus the majority of my bankroll on that race. There's a difference between that and when I go to spend an entire day at the races, at which point one of my goals is going to be to make sure that I don't tap out so early in the day that I can't enjoy myself a little later in the day. And I'm hoping that, so I'm going to divide up my bankroll on those days to make sure that I have enough money to play each of the races that's important to me, or that I have something left at the end. For me, there's no set percentage. It just depends on which of the races I like the most. And I am going to focus the bulk of the bankroll on the ones that you have the strongest opinion on. But I also do want to have enough left that if those bets aren't successful, I can still play and have an opportunity, if I had horses that I liked later in the card, to be able to get some of my money back, or at least close on a high note. So the most important thing to me is that you make sure that you don't blow your whole bankroll too early in a card where you have a number of horses that you like. You may divide it up depending on how strong you feel they are. And it is something also that I think that a lot of players make the mistake of doing all their work the night before. They've handicapped, they've come up with the key horses and everything else, and then they don't adjust their bankroll when they get to the track and see what the changes are and the scratches. And that can be a really big mistake, because even though you loved a horse, if there's been enough scratches that the odds on the horse that you love so much are going to change it and make him, less attractive from that standpoint, then you might adjust your bankroll or how you're going to play throughout the day. And maybe even though that was the horse you liked the most, but he's in the smallest field now, maybe you're going to bet a little less on that one and a little more on a horse later in the day that you liked but didn't know if you liked quite as much as that earlier horse. But you must adjust your bankroll depending on what happens with scratches and changes and weather conditions and such, because just because you've done the work, it would be a shame to lose it because you weren't willing to adjust for the other factors that came up.
And the key point throughout all of tonight's episode, be focused but be flexible. Lots of different ways to make wagers on these races, so make sure you set aside portions of your bankroll to focus on those. And as Caton mentions, be willing to call an audible if you need to, if there are changes or scratches or weather changes that do come up on a card. We're going to call it a night here on the Bankroll episode of Season 9 of Night School. We'll be back next week with a discussion of jockeys and jockey angles. We'll talk to you then. Good night.
Next on FAQ 60, class. The class of an American quarter horse is determined no differently than runners of other breeds. At what level of racing does the horse fit in terms of being most competitive? By answering that question, handicappers determine how the competition stacks up. Horses are maidens until they win for the first time. The class ladder is climbed from claiming races to allowance races, stakes trials, and eventually stakes races, with graded stakes the top rung of the class ladder. Simply put, a very fast horse can be more competitive at most any class level the shorter the distance. The longer the distance, the more emphasis a horse player should put on class. Also, don't fear a young horse making a class rise. We don't know their talent ceiling just yet. This FAQ 60 is brought to you by AQHA Racing and Horse Player Now.
Enjoyed tonight's episode? Check out hundreds of past archives at horseplayernow.com.